welcome in to another edition of the R&R Sports Report. I'm your host, Randy Isbell. With me, as always, Robert Hagan. Robert, how's it going, man?
You know, it's a great day. The sun was out shining today, and all I could think about while I was out doing lunch duty and getting kids off to school was, man, this is great golf weather, but it's more baseball weather. I'm like, I'm ready to go watch some more baseball.
It's great baseball weather, and then, of course, during baseball this weekend, we had rain on both Saturday and Sunday, and it was cold and windy, but luckily for Sunday, I was in the PA box and didn't have to worry about any of the weather. Poor baseball players out there just shivering and dealing with the conditions, and we're in there going, man, it's hot.
It almost reminded me of you and I doing the game up in Cheney. You know, it probably wasn't as cold. That was 32 degrees. We had to scrape the window before we could start at noon.
And then you're in the shed and just burning up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the little heater in there in the smallest space.
Over the top of the cook shack, so you were smelling the hot dogs and the coffee underneath.
Just made you hungry. All right, so we have a ton to get to. That's what it just seems to be the case. We complained too much at the beginning of doing this show that we wanted to do all this show to cover local sports and cover some national sports and have some fun.
Yep.
And then all the local sports were canceled and COVID was taking place. Well, we got our wish and they're all happening. And so we wanted to bring in some help.
Just a little bit. We needed another pair of eyes.
So we have brought in Mr. Brian Broemmeling to the show. Brian, it's been 20 some episodes since we've had you on. How's it been?
Good. Pretty busy. Staying busy, but get to listen to you guys once in a while. I'm glad to be here again.
Glad to have you. Again, we have so much to talk about. And Robert messaged me saying, Brian will be on the show when you want him. Brian can be on the whole thing. That's fine with me. We need some help to talk about all of this stuff. Of course, Carson and the Stoughton and Pomeroy get the football season going, get a couple games in. Basketball starting to wrap up. LCSC has all over the place happening. Golf just started this weekend. So every sport is happening right now for LCSC. I feel bad for the sports director who is trying to organize everything and do all of the website stuff and keep everybody up to date on everything that's happening. It's everything is for her. So it's she helps out during the baseball game. So I was talking to her on Sunday and just she never sit still. Either she had to take pictures from the website or she was writing other things, getting information from the track and field stuff, or walking over to see how tennis was doing. We're just nonstop all day long. And that's how it is for 7 days a week right now is everything happening.
That's the life.
Administrator.
Right.
We're probably the best in the world too.
Especially if you enjoy sports.
Especially rolling and everything. You know, just I'm done watching basketball for a few minutes. I think I'm gonna walk over and
go upstairs and
up by the gym.
I want to look at my baseball game for a few minutes. I mean, that's the life.
And it would be fun as Lewiston is one of the hosts for the opening round of the NAIA tournament for both men and the women. We'll break that down a little bit later on in the show. I'm very, very excited for it. I get to call one of the games with Bert. I get a call Montana West versus Benedict Mesa women's game noon, and then find a way to not leave the building. That's my plan. It's just, all right, see ya, and then go find a corner to hang out and watch the other ones.
There's plenty of spots. You know, you've been in this building one or two times, maybe three times. High spots.
I'll find something. I'll just sit in the garbage can. I don't care.
Yeah.
What's the regulations on that for attendance?
I think it's now, but it was 400 people. I think. I could be completely wrong. But obviously, all the teams and stuff, the number that was out there was in short supply, and I know they had put those out a couple of days ago. You can definitely check on LCWarriors.com to see if I'm completely wrong, which is usually the case.
Not you.
No.
Never.
All right, let's get into it, of course, because again, we have so much to talk about. Let's talk about the big news that broke yesterday. It's just changed my entire plans for the show.
Wait. You gotta tell me that's the biggest thing. That is the biggest story of the whole thing.
Marcus May was the franchise tag for the New York Jets, and now we're going to spend 10 minutes talking about him.
I'd rather talk that way than the other one because you know that other story's not going to go away.
No,
anytime.
No. But it is a big deal right now. Dak Prescott signed with Dallas Cowboys. The story that's only been in the news for the last
3 seasons.
At this point, he got 4 years, $160 million, $126 million guaranteed. It was really interesting to look at this report. Technically, the way they set this up, because people are way smarter than us. It's technically a 6-year deal, but it boils it down to 4. Basically, that helps Dallas with the cap. So it's $160 million over 6 years somehow. And he gets all the money in before. It's weird. He also gets a $66 million signing bonus, which is the most in the NFL, beating Russell Wilson by $1 million, which I'm sure that was the exact number they wanted to hit. I was surprised it wasn't $1 more just to get it. So with his $66 million signing bonus and the $9 million he's getting for the first year, he is $75 million in the first year of the contract, which is an NFL record. But it does help Dallas out. I mean, everyone's looking at the number. $160 million is so much. For the salary cap, Dallas is actually saving $15 million this year by signing into this contract rather than franchise tag. So it's $20 million hit of a $37 million hit. So I got to ask you guys, overpaid, paid correctly, who won this?
I don't know.
I think Dak
just because you know the way they played this year with Andy Dalton just proves they need his presence out there on the field. I know it's just I'm not a huge Cowboys fan, but I think that's got to be the biggest part is the steadiness of him making plays out on the field. I think that's a huge thing. But the story, you know, is gonna keep going, even though you know the deal is 6 years. But you know, Jerry Jones is gonna find a way to get his nose into something to change something of the deal. I mean, you know that's just the way he acts with that team. But the big thing, I think, if they've signed him to this, they've got to figure out who's the other weapon. I mean, everybody is signed. You know, like you said, Cooper and Elliott there till 26, Cooper till 24. Cooper's get up there in age though too. So he's the oldest receiver on the team if I remember right. But I mean,
he's 26.
But
which seems old. He's been around for so long. He seems old.
So I think he needs one more weapon. I really do. You know, you look at Blake Jarwin's going to be good. You know, he's still fairly young, but that's what I think. I mean, Dak is that team. It wasn't Andy Dalton, nowhere close to Andy Dalton, but I think they need to think about signing a free agent backup. I think that's where they should go there and say bye-bye Andy Dalton. But Big Red needs to move out, I think. I mean, they've got to do something a little bit different with that one.
Brian, what do you think?
I think he definitely won this deal because they could have. Well, they tried to sign him a while back, and he was able to hold out. And I think they could have signed him a long time ago for $7 million less. I think it was $33 million a year, so $7 million a year less when they had the chance, and they didn't do it. And so I definitely think he won this deal. But now I think he's got to prove it. Now he has the line, he has the offensive line, he's got Ezekiel Elliott in the backfield, 3 all-pro wide receivers to throw to, and so I think nothing short of making the Super Bowl is. Well, I think the pressure's on him now.
He'll be under a microscope for the next few years, definitely. But it's just I don't think his weapons that he has there are the ones that will help him get that far. I mean, we're still talking about a 9-7 team from 2 years ago when he played well. I mean, we're talking 9-7, and his weapons were not that good then. So what do we got to do? I mean, they're going to have to spend a little bit of money, but the cap space for those guys has lifted a little bit. What is it, 36 million or something like that? So, they got to find a weapon to help. So that's the main thing.
Obviously, the numbers look really big.
Yeah.
You get $160 million in just 4 years. But again, the way it's structured, it's at least helping them out now. Like you guys said, there's tons of weapons in Dallas. Before he got injured last year, he was putting up ridiculous numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully with the fix in the salary cap, with not doing the franchise tag and getting that extra $15 million, they can work a little bit on the defense. That offensive line is also no longer what it used to be. People are getting injured at a higher rate there, so it's not that top offensive line it used to be.
Yeah.
So that maybe they'll look into kind of addressing that there as well in the draft. I honestly have no problem with it. I'm surprised by it, especially with the injury that he had last year and how gruesome that was. I figured that was going to make Dak have to do one more franchise tag before he was finally able to get that deal. But him getting $160 million over 4 years and having now the second highest annual rate for a quarterback is not surprising, because this is just what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Kirk Cousins for a little bit was the highest paid quarterback. It's just, who's the hot quarterback? We're going to make him the highest paid. Patrick Mahomes set the bar really high, so Dak went for second. But this is just what's going to happen. So Lamar Jackson now. Are you worried with Baltimore? Because this is now the number that he's going to want to beat.
Right. Oh, yeah. That'll be the number that he'll want to beat easily. But the big one on that one is, look, he's already got an MVP there. He's already got, granted, you can add one more. You can add one playoff win, but, got
the same amount as Dak Prescott.
Right. So, but you've got the MVP award. So he's going to have a little bit of leeway in there. But I don't think he's going to be he'll get close. I don't think he'll get, Aaron Rodgers numbers or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So
it'd be interesting. I know everyone is saying now the pressure's on Dak. I think the pressure's off of Dak, because he was on the franchise tag. He had to perform to get this money. Now he's guaranteed over $120 million. Now I think the pressure's off. The worry is, with the pressure off, does he perform worse? And then Dallas looks terrible for doing it. But for Dak, I think he's a made man now. So congratulations to him. I'm very happy for him. I've never been against a player going out and getting their money. I mean, the numbers look astronomical, but there's a salary cap for a reason. And if the team feels that he is worth that much percentage of that cap, good for him. Another signing that happened that wasn't that big of a deal. Big Ben does return for one more year with Pittsburgh, which I was kind of surprised with the exodus that was happening with the Steelers, with some of their players either retiring or leaving for free agency. I was thinking that was going to be the straw that broke, and we went Big Ben just went, that's all right. But surprising, he came back for one more.
Yeah, especially after losing Pouncey there. Exactly. But I don't think I think they have to draft a quarterback. Maybe I'm thinking a little wrong, but it's like I posed the question there to you earlier, that what's the idea? I don't think Mason Rudolph is he's not the quarterback of the future. So does Pittsburgh get involved with all the QB hype in the first and second round this year?
They could pull the trigger, surprise people, but I think they're going to have to start considering somebody, whether in the draft or free agency. But definitely. I think at least Roethlisberger making that decision gave them a little sigh of relief, because they can at least hide behind Roethlisberger playing one more year, but they could draft somebody and go under his tutelage for a year. And
because Pittsburgh's lower down in the draft order. It looks like all the main quarterbacks, they're talking about 5 quarterbacks in the first 10 picks in some mock drafts anymore. So they're going to have to dig deep to find somebody of the future. So having that extra will help them. But at the same time, if Big Ben had retired, you could fill in that gap with a Ryan Fitzpatrick or an Andy Dalton. Or I don't know if Pittsburgh would really take Andy Dalton. But
I think, though, here's my thing, is you go back and look at his face and look the way that things reacted that very last game, in his last playoff game. He just didn't look like he wanted to be there anymore. I mean, he just looked. I mean, he looked tired, but to go. But I mean, I could see it could have been easily frustration. Go 11-0 and then poop to bed.
Right. Well, I mean, they also forgot what a running game was.
Yeah.
The offensive line didn't know what a block was anymore. If I was Big Ben and every time you hiked the ball, you saw 3 defenders in your face, it's like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore.
Yeah. So they have the 24th pick. So think about that. How far down do you think any of those quarterbacks make it?
Not there.
None of the ones that are.
I'm hearing what Mac Jones is the 5th one that everyone's putting on the board. And I don't think he goes past like 15.
Yeah. There's just no
So,
way.
I mean, they can move up from there to go up and get somebody, but I mean, they will have to make some moves if they want to get one of those 5 quarterbacks.
Right.
Buccaneers agreed to a 2-year, $25 million extension with linebacker Levante David. And that brings the trivia question I wanted to bring up just because it was Buccaneers, and I want to get back at Robert sometimes.
Why would
So
you
Tom
wanna do that?
Tom Brady, obviously with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning the Super Bowl, will play his former team, the New England Patriots, next year, which will give him a chance to be the 4th quarterback to have a victory over all 32 teams in the NFL. Obviously, it's tough to beat the Patriots when you're on the Patriots the whole time. Can you name the first 3 quarterbacks to defeat all 32 teams in their career?
Wow. Montana.
Unfortunately for Montana, he played before there were 32 teams.
Peyton's got to be one.
Yeah.
Peyton's probably the last one to do it.
Peyton Manning is one.
Jeez.
So you got to think modern.
Something makes me lean that I want to say his brother Eli. I don't know why.
Well, it's tough for Eli to beat the Giants.
Yeah, that'd be the only one. Does Philip do it? Philip might have.
Philip Rivers was not one.
Yeah, I know I got one.
They're all Hall of Famers.
They're all Hall of Famers.
2 Hall of Famers and 1 future Hall of Famer. I'll give you 30 more seconds.
Yeah, Peyton is the one. I'm just drawing a blank.
Yeah.
Who's another huge quarterback that played for a long time and then at the end of his career switched teams?
The beard. Fitzpatrick. No,
You would
he doesn't
think.
have enough wins.
I need to look that up. How many teams Fitzpatrick? He's played on almost all 32 teams. Brett Favre.
Yeah.
And you better hope Denise is not listening because Drew Brees is the other quarterback. Remember, he played for the Chargers to start his career.
You're going to try to get me in trouble already, aren't you? Wow.
I saw that today as they were looking at different schedules. Got to use that. Even though I don't have any Tom Brady news, I had to do it.
Tom Brady.
So I got to ask you this, Brian. We've talked about it the last couple of weeks. Do you think Russell Wilson gets traded? I didn't believe so at first. I don't know now.
I still don't believe it. I don't know how they can part with Russell Wilson. Everything he's done for the city and for the team. And just, even though I'm a huge Seahawks fan, I just still can't believe that they would trade him. I don't think so. No. Even though you don't hear much from him lately, you haven't heard anything from him.
You know
but I don't think so.
What's funny though is you listen to some of these other sports guys and talking and listening to Dan Patrick and he does make a couple of good points. Look at what has happened over the last few years. That has always been just kind of a defensive team the last few years, and he's more of a defensive minded team. Does he find an offensive coordinator that designs something more around Russell to be, do I dare say, more Peyton Manning, run the offense himself, where he is making the calls. The 3 teams that popped up that they were talking about, and I actually wrote them down, and it was kind of funny to think about wearing different colors. One of them they were talking about was the Saints. I don't see that one. I mean, they could be an easily one, but there's too much. They've got too much cap issue to be there. So the other two make a little bit more sense. And now with and we're going to talk about with one of the receivers getting franchise tag, but Chicago makes a little bit of sense. Chicago makes a lot of sense being closer to Wisconsin, but the other one was black and silver.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine him going down and playing in Las Vegas?
Pruden loves him.
Sierra, pack up the bags. Let's go.
She does
We're taking. Yeah, we're going home.
So I'm with Brian. I don't see this happening, but the fact that the Seattle Seahawks have went, well, we don't want to trade Russell, but we're taking phone calls. And Russell has gone, well, I don't want to move, but if you do move me, here are the 4 teams I would like to go to. It's starting to be like, is this happening? I mean, this offseason is going to be so strange anyways with all of these crazy moves that have been rumored. Who knows at this point? But the way they've been talking, I don't even know.
Well, it's been quiet. They haven't had to talk about Tom Brady and Bill Belichick at each other, Tom's happy down in Tampa Bay. He's got Gronk. They're sitting on the beach.
All right, let's hit the franchise tags because today is technically franchise day, even though we talked about it 2 weeks ago as being franchise tag day because that's when it starts, but no one ever does it until it absolutely has to. There were 10 franchise tags that were given out, and none of them were kickers or punters, which is usually the go-to for a lot of these teams. I'll go through them real quick, and then I want to know what you guys think is the biggest surprise. You have the Denver Broncos keeping safety Justin Simmons, Carolina Panthers keeping offensive tackle Taylor Moton, my New York Jets with safety Marcus May, the Giants keep one of the biggest free agent possibilities with Leonard Williams, Washington football team Keith Sheriff with offensive line, which I thought he was going to re-sign, but franchise tag that counts. Tampa Bay Buccaneers do keep wide receiver Chris Godwin. Jacksonville Jaguars keep offensive tackle Cam Robinson. The Chicago Bears keep wide receiver Allen Robinson, which breaks my heart. It breaks my heart so much. I know you predicted Baltimore, but I wanted him in a Jets jersey so bad. New Orleans Saints keep safety Marcus Williams. And the last one, the Dallas Cowboys franchise tag quarterback Dak Prescott, only because their deal would not have gone through till tomorrow. Right. And they had to keep him on there, and now they will get him the signing. So it still counts as him getting franchise tagged again. What was the biggest surprise, whether somebody that was kept that you're surprised by or somebody that wasn't kept that you're surprised by?
For me, I mean, you and I talked that Simmons was going to stay in Denver. I think I was more shocked that he was tagged instead of signing. But the one that really stood out was Leonard Williams. I know it's a bigger market, more people there, but I would have figured he would have moved on to find a bigger,
well, I'm sure if he had the
more money, a chance to win.
That's what I'm saying. The Giants are making sure he doesn't have the opportunity to move on.
I think that's the one that I was more shocked with between those two.
All right, you, Brian.
Oh, probably May. I would say with the Jets.
There's not much out there for the Jets to keep. They got to keep someone.
They're getting ready to unload all their picks. They still think they're in the Trevor Lawrence deal.
Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson to the Jets all day. It's happening at some point once the Texans wake up. My biggest surprise was that the Green Bay Packers did not keep either of their running backs. They're letting Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones go to free agency. They've said that they want to try to re-sign them. But Aaron Jones is going to be a hot commodity out there. He's a fantastic running back, great out of the backfield with his hands in the receiving game. I'm hearing all the rumors from Miami, which makes me upset. I also want my best friend Aaron Jones to come to the New York Jets, but I want them all to come to the team.
Did you fix that sign and tweet
out
to him?
Fix the sign. I've been waiting closer to free agency time. That's next week.
You better get on it. You and Haley better get on it this week.
I don't think Haley's going to help me fix a sign that says Aaron Jones leave Green Bay and come to the Jets. I don't see her helping me. It was way better when she helped me because it had Green Bay all over it. That's what she had fun with.
I still, what was that, 3 years ago? Crazy to think about that sign actually made ESPN and it got notoriety, and he tweeted out. And that's just awesome.
And I became best friends with Aaron Jones.
You wish you were a sports agent in these times.
All right, let's talk about some of the trades and the cuts that happened. Not a lot going down. We're still waiting. I think it'll be this weekend when we're going to see a lot of the veterans cut. One of the big cuts was Carlos Dunlap from the Seattle Seahawks. Saves him about $14 million. They have said that they are looking to re-sign him for a smaller deal. If you're a player and your team cuts you and then wants to bring you back for less money, is that something you want to do?
But if you read his tweet back out, and I think it was on his Instagram, but on the page there, it talked about Seattle gave him the opportunity to get his out of Cincinnati. I mean, you even saw it all over social media that he was putting his house up for sale in Cincinnati, and Seattle gave him that opportunity to do so. I really think they make a huge push for him, but they just couldn't come, back and forth with the deal. I think Carlos wants a longer deal than what they were wanting. I think Seattle offered him like 3 years is all. I think he wants a longer tenure there.
Do you think Dunlap comes back to Seattle?
I hope so. I think he loved it there. And maybe if they can structure it the way where they can pay him more in the front half of the deal, then maybe he'll do that. But
once the Seahawks finally get rid of Russell Wilson, they'll have the money, and then they can re-sign Carlos Dunlap. I think that maybe that's their plan. Malcolm Butler, Super Bowl hero, was released.
That's why I put that one on there. I put them right next to each other.
Malcolm Butler now looking to join Seattle because he knows Russell Wilson will throw it to him. Dan Bailey cut from Minnesota. Why did you put a kicker on our notes, Robert?
He's old.
We had enough stuff to talk about for 2 hours?
We're talking about Dan Bailey. He was a Cowboy at one time, but he had his worst season ever. Do you think he gets re-signed somewhere?
Because he had his worst season ever because he went to Minnesota. That's where kickers go to die. Do you remember Blair Walsh?
Yes.
Blair Walsh was a fantastic kicker, and all of a sudden he went to Minnesota and has never been the same. He even went to Seattle.
Yep.
And that's where careers end.
I think, write it down.
So a couple of really interesting trades that I want to talk about, especially the second one. But first, the New England Patriots bring back Trent Brown, who played for the Raiders the last 2 seasons. He was a Patriot in 2018, played all 16 games there for him. Went to Las Vegas, kind of struggled. So much so that New England is giving it a 5th rounder next year to get Trent Brown and a 7th round pick next year. So peanuts to get a lineman back. That does show that I do believe the Patriots are going to move on from Joe Thuney, who's a great offensive lineman for the Patriots. We talked about him 2 weeks ago, I think, when we were making predictions. I believe you said he was going to
That's what I'm
Jets.
looking. I'm looking. I think that's what
I said the Jets, of course, and you said Baltimore. We were very, very homerish on that pick because we both like him. That's what it was. And then the second one that was really interesting to me, the Tennessee Titans trade their offensive lineman, Isaiah Wilson, who they drafted last year in the 1st round, to the Miami Dolphins. They basically swapped 7th round picks on top of it. They're like, give us a 7th round pick this year. We'll give you Wilson and our 7th round pick next year. Wilson obviously had lots of issues, only played 3 snaps for the Titans. I heard a story on the radio coming home from work this morning of Isaiah Wilson, was supposed to be injured and ended up being on a boat with a bunch of strippers and during COVID, and just not the smartest guy out there. Hopefully Miami can fix some of those problems. That's what you see all the time. This is a New England Patriots move, if I've ever seen one.
Well, yeah, and now he's going down to South Beach to
party
party
a little bit more. Where you want to send a guy,
right?
But that would tighten up that offensive line a lot more. For Tua, I could see something happening, and it might not be a bad for 7th round for a 1st round pick. That's a little. But 3 snaps.
And Brian, it's no risk for Miami.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And maybe, it's a little closer to home for him, and so maybe that'll help too. But yeah.
And if it doesn't work out, you move on, and if not, then oh darn, we didn't have a 7th rounder this year, but we get an extra one this year. Just a weird trade. All right, and then the last thing I want to talk about, football news wise, is this whole Les Miles situation that it's so weird to me. So obviously he had his issues at LSU and was let go 3 years ago. Well, they were doing an investigative report at LSU, and that finally came out like 8 years after they had done it. Les Miles obviously in Kansas right now. The report comes out saying like Miles made all of the female student helpers uncomfortable, even like kissed one of them even though they didn't want it. So LSU had come out and said that Les Miles could not be alone with a female student. Like they went that far just to, I don't know, protect him from being an idiot, but did not release this for years. So Kansas signs him and then finds out and then goes, nah, we're done. So obviously Les Miles is very much at fault for this, but is LSU at fault for this, for not releasing this information until many years after he was gone and hiding it for so long while he was there? Or is this a Kansas problem because they didn't do their due diligence on it? It's just such a weird story to me.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it took that long for LSU to release that information, but I was just going to say, I mean, Kansas has, in this day and age, you have to do your due diligence, and they did not. I think Les Miles was friends with the president or the AD, and that's how he got the job at Kansas, because they knew each other back when he was an assistant at Michigan. And so that's how he got the job at Kansas. But you still, in this day and age, cannot you still have to do your due diligence before you hire a guy. But yeah, I'm not sure why LSU took that long to finally release their investigation.
Yeah, and you're 100% right. I mean, with the way the world is now and the technologies, if you're not taking full 100% advantage of finding out who your leader of your team's going to be, then you've really screwed up. So it reminds me, like, you make a good point. It's like, okay, we're shaking hands under the table kind of thing. Here, we're going to make it work.
Right.
You know, did he have an idea? Did the guy from Kansas have a little idea that there was something crazy going on?
That part of it is really confusing to me. The thing that just drove me nuts about that story, again, is LSU finally, after all these years, coming out with the investigation stuff. But the fact that he coached there for many years after all of this stuff happened, and LSU's like, you can't be around any female students. They can't babysit your kids anymore because you're a menace, but not doing anything about it. And I mean, we just went through the Penn State scandal not long before this. Obviously, it doesn't sound like Les Miles went as over the top, but still, they were worried about it enough, and he was making enough students uncomfortable. Like, it's a silly question as big sports fans, and football does seem to take precedent over everything, but it doesn't really take precedent that much that you just have to keep Les Miles, even though he's a complete perv.
Sometimes it's all about the W's, but
right?
Still,
so I'm a
huge
huge sports fan, but it's stories like this that make me go, I take sports a little too seriously if we try to sweep this stuff under the rug. Like, at some point, we'd learn, I think.
Oh, no. She did hear
it. There it is.
Yeah.
She loves him some Drew Brees so much, she misspelled his name. All right, let's get into some baseball. Spring training's going on. I haven't watched a single inning of it, even though I'm paying for it. It's been a very busy couple weeks for me. But I'm so excited. So we're going to do the NL West and the AL West this week. We'll go to the Central next week, the East after that, and then we'll do our playoffs and World Series and MVP predictions that will sure go wrong. So let's look at the NL West first. And, of course, it is led by the Los Angeles Dodgers, who went 43-17 last year. These records are just funny to me because we only had the 60 games. But win the World Series, and then not only do they add Corey Knebel and Tommy Kahnle to the bullpen, then they add Trevor Bauer, who is the main free agent in baseball this season. Just a fantastic team. But that is their answer to the San Diego Padres, who finished 6 games behind them last year. And they added Joe Musgrove. They traded for Blake Snell and Yu Darvish. They added Mike Clevenger. So that entire rotation is completely different. I believe I saw a thing that there's only one person that was a starter last year that will be a starter this year for the Padres. And then, of course, they signed Tatis to a 49ers. That's funny.
Okay.
So it happens when I'm doing free agent stuff, and then nice catch, Brian. So the San Francisco 49ers, the Giants 29-31 last year. The rest of this division didn't really do much. They added a couple bullpen guys, a couple rotation guys, not much. The Rockies trade Nolan Arenado.
I still am scratching my
for
head about
nothing,
that.
for a bag of peanuts and Cracker Jack box.
Yeah.
And then Arizona they went, well, Nolan Arenado went away from Colorado, and they all got mad, so we're just not going to do anything. So what do you guys think? Is it as simple as it's Dodgers, Padres, and no one else in this division? Or do you see one of these other three teams, especially the San Francisco 49ers, coming up trying to get one of the wild card spots?
I don't know about you, Rock, but I think it's the Dodgers division to lose. The Padres might hang around for a while, but I don't see anybody catching the Dodgers in this division.
Randy and I have talked the last couple of weeks about this, but San Diego just seems to have open pockets. Go spend money, go get them. And I think that's going to be a huge – I really think it's going to come down to a lot closer between those two, But I don't remember, where did Jock Peterson go? Jock and Enrique both leave. But Jock was a decent bat there in the middle of the lineup, so I'm shocked that
Chicago. He went to the
Chicago. That's right. So I think those two are going to be a lot closer. I still lean and we'll get to it in a minute, but I lean one way just a little bit, not a lot. I mean, you look at the records, how close they were before everything paused, and that. I mean, what the difference is 6 games.
I applaud the Padres for trying. They're trying everything they can to trade for everybody and sign as many guys as they can. They're for a long time they were in the cellar, and they're trying as best as they can. I just
this is the time for the Padres because they knew they had enough up and coming prospects. Obviously, Tatis being the main one, and now that they're starting to get into the groove. Which, again, Tatis signing for 14 years when he hasn't played a full 162 games yet is still wild. But you got Tatis, you got Machado over there on the offense, a couple other young stars that are in the making for the Padres, and you surround them with this rebuilt rotation. A little worried about the Padres bullpen compared to the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers made a bit more moves. So that's why I also think that the Dodgers probably win the division, but I think it could be Dodgers and Padres and then 20 games before you get to the next team. I think the Giants are going to be better than people think. But you're looking at the Padres and Dodgers both possibly winning 100 games.
Yeah.
And Giants maybe being about the 500 mark. It could be crazy. Let's go to the AL West, which would be a little bit more interesting for the folks around here. The Oakland Athletics won the division last year, and they as well really bolstered up that bullpen with some big veterans and Trevor Rosenthal and Sergio Romo. Rosenthal's like 58 years old by now, isn't he? I feel like I've been watching him since I was a child. They also trade for Elvis Andrus in one of those rare interdivision trades that happened with them and the Texas Rangers. The Houston Astros, I think this is their last chance with this makeup.
They're going all in. They have to.
You got Verlander, Correa, Greinke, Gurriel, and McCullers Jr., all free agents next year. I don't think they bring them all back. They're still dealing with garbage can gate. They lose George Springer to Toronto. So if it's not Oakland, I think it's a wide open division because you have the Mariners, who everyone makes fun of because they just never win anything. Every time they get a star, they trade them away. Well, they pulled one over on the Yankees and traded Paxton to the Yankees and got a nice young arm and then brought Paxton back 2 years later. So it'll be interesting to see him there. They also get Ken Giles, who, as long as you have him in the ninth inning in a save situation, he's fantastic. If you have him anywhere else or it's not a save situation, he will blow the game. That is Ken Giles, period.
And he's out the whole year.
Oh, is he out?
I didn't know if you knew that.
I did not know that.
surgery, and so
Well, then never mind. I'll take that away.
Pitching this year.
This is why we have you here.
That's
So
why
he
the
won't blow any
Mariners-
games.
The Mariners, sometimes you question what they're doing, but they
Right.
signed a guy that's not even going to pitch.
LA
this year.
Angels sign Jose Quintana, not too much. There's just the Angels are an interesting team, and the Rangers are in full-on dump mode. As Corey Kluber left for the Yankees, Lance Lynn was traded to the White Sox. Elvis Andrews went to Oakland. They got Chris Davis, who bats 180, and will hit 30 home runs for you. So, what do you guys think? Do the Mariners have a chance? Is this Oakland's division? Is Houston going to make one last run? What do you guys think?
I think it's going to be neck and neck for quite a while, actually, and then it might come down to who makes a move at the trade deadline, who wants to add a pitcher or something. But diehard Mariner fan, I still think they're going to lose it in the last week of the season or something. So
it's nice of you to think that they're going to be there in the last week of the season. I do have to say,
I like their young bats, and I like their outfield. Kyle Lewis is a all-star. I just don't know if they have the bullpen.
Well, you look at it, and I'm looking at the 40-man right now. You've got Lewis out there, Haniger, who played hardly any last year. So who else? Who's your other starter out there? You're going to put Fraley out there. You're going to put Bishop, or do you rotate one of these other guys in? You know, but you and I have talked. We've got a lot of, and the Mariners farm teams have had tons of prospects. What do we figure? Seven out of the top 50 or something like that are all on the Mariners team. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But you know, Kyle Seager's not getting any older,
any younger.
Or, you know, either one. I mean, he's not getting there. You can't live on J.P. Crawford anymore. You know, you got to get a little help. Evan White, I mean, he looked really well last year. You've got to keep those guys going. I think Dylan Moore might rotate out in the outfield a little bit. So it's going to be a good year to see what happens. But you got Tom Murphy behind the dish. I mean, he's almost as old as I am. It seems like.
Yeah,
Actually,
it's going to be
was born in
interesting.
91.
And of course, you had the former Seattle Mariners CEO, president, or whatever his title was, blowing the lid on how owners always work the system and the dates and everything. And now he's gone. But you look at the Mariners prospects and their future, if they don't pull a Seattle and bring them up, make them stars and trade them away. According to prospects, 1500.com, where they list just a ridiculous amount of prospects and they tier them, and so their top tier are who they believe will be all-stars, or the second tier where they should be above average pros. The Mariners have 12 players in their farm system that they put in tier 1 or tier 2. It's really good. I mean, that will be half of your roster in a few years, and they're going to be really good. So the future is bright for Seattle. I do think it is a couple years away, but this division I think is very, very wide open. I think Oakland's probably the favorite, just because Houston is still going through all of their mess. But Seattle and the Angels are both very, very interesting to me as far as if they're able to turn things around.
And I hope they do, because I mean, they keep saying, well, you know, we're rebuilding, and me too, being a dieharder of the Mariners. You know, you get 2001, you get 95. You know, 95 sticks in your head, and then you get 2001 with 116 games, and then all of a sudden, we have 2016 when we made the right up to the very end, and then all of a sudden just kind of out again. But then it's, we're going to rebuild. Here we go. Unload. But you're right. The one that sticks out for me is what's going to happen with the Angels. I mean, signing Quintana, is that enough to get something to work for them? That's
they
where
just don't
I'm
have
at.
enough around Trout. I'm still surprised they haven't moved Trout for just the most ridiculous package you've ever seen.
It'll be interesting because his contract's getting to be close. think he's 2 years left, Mike Trout? A couple years left. I know it's got to be real close.
Oh, he had just signed that big one. I was just trying to look at the big number.
I thought he had 2 years left, and that was about it.
No, he had signed a 12-year deal. I just can't remember what it was. 12 years, $465 million or $426 million that he signed in 2018.
I wish I had a little bit of that money.
So he'll be a free agent in 2031 when he's 39 years old.
He should be set kind of like Bobby Bonilla was.
Let's do the first part of our Major League Baseball draft. We're going to do this just like we did with basketball, but we will do the West together and then the Centrals and then the Easts. And then whoever has the most wins from their teams will make the loser pay for dinner at some point.
There you go.
That's what we're doing.
I'm good with that.
And I have a better chance in baseball because you're kicking my butt in basketball. I'm not even doing an update this week because they didn't really play any games since our last show.
Wow.
But let's start off, Robert. You won the coin toss for the West. Where are you going? Seattle Mariners?
No. I had to go with the Dodgers. Like I said, we talked about it a minute ago. It's going to be a close race between those two ball clubs. I give just a little bit of edge to LA, so that's where I'm going to go.
Yeah, I mean, this was one of two teams we had to pick, right? Mm-hmm. Dodgers or Padres. You took the Dodgers, so I'm taking the Padres. It's that simple. I think I lose a couple games to you at this point, but I don't think there's anyone else you could take. Who are you taking second?
And then you hit it on the head a few minutes ago. It's a win or you're done this season for Houston. That's why I will Houston there for pick number 3. They have to go in with the mentality of we have to win now. So,
well, I'm going to stay in the AL West. I'm going to take the team that I think is going to win that division. That's the Oakland Athletics. What do you got, fifth?
Fifth, I am going to end up taking the Angels. I'm going to gamble. I like just with the signing with Quintana. I think I can't believe I left the Mariners sitting there and me being a homer all the way down. So,
well, it's probably because you thought I wasn't going to take them. And I won't. I'm not going to take them. So you can take the 2 LA teams. I'll take the 2 San teams. I'll take the San Francisco Giants. They have a better chance to win more games than the 49ers this year. That's because they play a lot more. That's my thought process on this pick. All right. So you have the Dodgers, Astros, and Angels. I have the Padres, Athletics, and Giants. You got 2 more picks. Who you taking 7th overall?
I'm going to take the Mariners. They're young. We're gonna make a push this year. Look for that division. I really think that division is going to be a little bit closer, all 4 of the teams. But I think Seattle still is going to end up on the bottom of that grouping.
Yeah, I'm going to take Arizona. I don't have a lot of hopes with it. Hopefully a 70-win season maybe. I don't think they lose 100 games. So 70 to 75 wins is where I'm expecting Arizona. Mm-hmm. So that's who I'm taking. So we got Texas and Colorado left. Who are you leaving me with?
I went any, mini, miny, mo. Seriously, I did that. I texted you that. I said any, mini, miny, mo, and I was like, okay, coin flip. And then, I looked at some of the notes on her, and it's like, Rockies just kind of with everything. They just said, here you go, take everything. Even take the bag of Fig Newtons that was owed to me from Cam Newton trade from Mike Mitchell. But, but so I left Colorado with you. I'm going to take the Rangers.
All right, give me Colorado. I have went to that stadium. It's a very beautiful stadium. So, but I've also been to Texas has a new stadium, so I haven't been to their new one yet. So there you go. Robert has the Dodgers, Astros, Angels, Mariners, and Rangers. I have the Padres, Athletics, Giants, Diamondbacks, and Rockies. And next week we will do the AL and NL Central teams. So we get some Chicago's in there, Minnesota, Detroit.
We get Central, and then you get the first pick with that one, or we coin flipping on that one again.
We'll coin flip.
Okay.
It'll be fine.
So I got a chance to get your Yankees in.
They're in the East. So I just have to win that coin flip. That's all I have to worry about. Let's move on to some basketball here. As I said at the top of the show, the NAIA tournament opening rounds, one of these sites is right here in Lewiston. That gets started on Friday. 4 games on Friday, 4 games on Saturday. Look at the women's side first. Again, it's so weird this year because they went from 64 teams down to 48. And instead of having your normal 1 versus 16 stuff, they just took 3 teams from an area, put them together, and whoever was their highest seed gets a bye. and the other two teams will play. The winner of those two teams will play the top seed. The winner of that little mini tournament will then go to their championship site, and the final 6 teams will go on in a normal tournament bracket there.
Do you remember when we looked at that, and when we originally saw that, we all looked at it like, what the heck is this? That was crazy.
Started to figure out a little bit.
Oh my God, it was just nuts.
Speaking of basketball, I just happened to look for the reason why I knew my dad was not going to listen to my show tonight. Gonzaga and BYU just hit halftime. Gonzaga 25-0 on the year in the WCC tournament final. They have scored 41 points. BYU has scored 53.
Ooh.
BYU has a 12-point lead. They just hit halftime. We'll keep you up to date. But BYU trying to give Gonzaga their first loss of the season. All right, let's get into the women's bracket. So Friday at noon, you get the number 2 seed, Montana Western, who are technically the defending champions because they won in 2019. We didn't have a tournament last year. Taking on the number 3 seed, Bennington Mesa, who's making their first appearance ever. So, and that's the game I get to do with Bert, and it's going to be really cool to tell the story of the defending champions versus the first-timers. Going at it will be really fun. Montana Western is in their 13th appearance. And the winner of that game will take on Westmount on Saturday. They are the number 2 overall seed is Westmount, making their 16th appearance. On the other bracket for the women, your LCSC State Warriors will play Friday at 5 p.m. They'll make their 23rd appearance in the tournament. And what was it? Was it 2019 or 2018 they made the finals? Maybe it's 2017. They made the finals of the tournament. They're going to see if they can redo that. They'll take on number 3, William Jessup from California, who's making their 2nd appearance. And if LC State could get by William Jessup, they've got Carroll College, their big rival, waiting for them on Saturday. Carroll making their 12th appearance. They're the 6th overall seed. And LC with 1 and 2 against Carroll College this year, if I remember. So that would be a big matchup if LC State can get there. On the men's side, on Friday at 2:30, you get Carroll College on the men's side as the 2 seed taking on Texas Wesleyan, who is replacing the College of the Ozarks, who decided to back out of the tournament because the College of Ozarks were their 2nd placer in their conference tournament and finished the season 2-5. And decided we're not going to make the trip from, I think it was Missouri to Idaho when we're 2-5 on the year. So they backed out, and Texas Wesleyan got in as the 48th seed. Carroll College is the 26th seed. Carroll College making their 6th straight appearance on the men's side, their 15th overall. The winner will take on the number 7 overall seed, Arizona Christian, who I watched their game. I believe they played 2 games against LCSC down in Arizona. They split to 2 games. It's a very, very strong squad. And I was talking to a couple of the basketball players in one of my classes. Arizona Christian has a bit of a chip on their shoulder as they feel they're better than LCSC and are mad that they have to come up here to play. And LCSC has a better seating than them as well. So it'll be interesting to see how they play on Saturday. On the other side, you get the number 2 seed Vanguard out of California taking on Bennington Mesa, who is also making their 1st appearance. Just one of 2 men's teams making their 1st appearance in the tournament. Vanguard making their 5th appearance. And the winner of that game will take on your LCSC Warriors Saturday night at 7:30 p.m. The Warriors making their 7th straight appearance, their 16th overall. They did beat Bennington Mesa earlier on in the year, and I feel bad for Bennington Mesa because they have the littlest gym I've ever seen. But LCSC is the 4th overall seed. So those are the 8 games that will happen here in Lewiston, and hopefully by the end of it, when we come back on Tuesday, we'll talk about how both LCSC teams are moving on to the round of 16. Robert, do you have any predictions to go with this?
It's hard to even to follow some of those guys because, like you were saying, Benedictine Mesa are so small, and with the shifting and with the conferences, being LCSC now CCC teams out of the Cascade and all that, we didn't get to see any of these guys, and with our favorite word, C word, we didn't get to see much film on any of them. So it's almost like shooting fish in a barrel. It'll be interesting to see how some of these teams come out. And I think, you almost know that Carroll College is going to be one of those teams that's going to get there. So I'm looking forward to that rematch, and I really hope that happens here for the ladies and get that rematch here.
Yeah, and the women of LC also, 2 weeks since they've played their last game, they weren't able to find anything else. Do you think that has any effect on the Warriors?
No, I don't think so. But I don't have any predictions. But I think it's great that they get to host. I think they've proven that with baseball. I recognize a couple teams from the NAIA World Series like Vanguard and William Jessup that have been here in baseball. And so I think it's great that LCSC gets to host a basketball tournament, especially with the activity center being one of the best courts in the NAIA. And so it's an awesome opportunity for the LCSC Warriors to showcase the Valley and
just wish
tournament.
that we could fill it up. I mean, because all three of us have been lucky enough to call the Golden Throne games a couple times, and that place could just get insane. So to have that kind of atmosphere for a tournament style game, it would have been great.
Yeah.
One of KLCZ's sister organizations here at LCSC is the Warrior Entertainment Board, known as WEB to those in the know. Bring world entertainment to the campus of all LCSC students. The Warrior Entertainment Board almost always has something in works. If you would like more information on the acts of WEB is planning to bring to LC this semester, or want to help with the entertainment to the masses at LCSC, you can visit lcsc.edu/warrior-entertainment.
Now you are listening to the R&R Sports Report right here on KLCZ 88.9 FM. You can also check us out on our Facebook and YouTube pages at the R&R Sports Report. I have an announcement to make once we get to the tennis. We'll get into that. Robert and I put our foot. I put my foot in both of our mouths last week, and we'll have an announcement of that when we get to the tennis team. It's currently 41.6 degrees outside. But let's get to baseball first before we get to that announcement. As it was so nice to see fans back out there as the Cascade Conference has lightened up on some of their restrictions, and we were able to get some fans out there for the baseball games. I was out there for both of the Sunday games. And while it's not fully packed like we really want it yet, it was still nice to hear some noise. And it was great, and it was great to see everyone out there. The Warriors do sweep Corbin in their 4-game set this weekend, winning 4-2 and 11-1 in 7 innings on Saturday. And then on Sunday, they win the first game 4-3. And then game 2, once again, it was a 7-inning affair where they win 12-2. So it was really funny to watch how both game ones came down to the wire. I think LCSC would take the lead in the 8th inning in both games, and then they just 10-run them in the next one. It was like they had to wake up a little bit. They dealt with the rain a little bit. We had about a half-hour rain delay on Sunday, which kind of messed with things. And then the whole rest of the Sunday, it was just raining off and on, and it was kind of miserable. The game 2 was a little bit better, but we'd like to see LC kind of get into that groove a little bit. We talked with AJ last week about how they're kind of feeling complacent a little bit and playing these teams that are a little lower level than them and not putting in that overall effort. And I think it shows here this weekend where the first game, they don't put in the effort. It's really close. And then that wakes them up. Off to the races they go.
Well, and, in the same thing, in the same breath, we asked AJ, I said, who do we look for? And that name, and you and I talked about just before Brian got here, was Dylan. Dylan Ballou. I mean, just hearing the stats and he picked up a couple of the games and ended them out for the Warriors. So I'm excited to finally get a chance to see him, hopefully in the next week or so. But I'm excited to know things can be like a snap of the fingers, and then all of a sudden, here we go. It's time to get this thing going. We can play ball, and it needs to happen. We need to bring some major baseball here and get these teams going and get the Warriors going.
So the LCSC Warriors are off this weekend, and then the weekend of March 19th through the 21st, they will be in Caldwell, Idaho, to take on the College of Idaho. The next time you can see your Warriors here at Harris Field will be March 27th, when they will take on a 4-game set, back-to-back doubleheaders against Eastern Oregon. So late March will be the next time the Warriors will be here.
Right after.
And it is those 4 games, and it's 4 games against College of Idaho late April are the only 2 scheduled series left for the regular season at Harris Field.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Driving up here, it looked like they were having an inter-squad scrimmage. Like Jake Taylor likes to do that just to keep them sharp. And somebody cranked a home run just as I was driving up here, and so it might have been Dylan. But it's tough having the weekend off in a shortened season already. Just trying to stay sharp, but it's good to see him out there tonight and have some decent weather to practice in.
Now let's look at the other sports here at LC, because a lot going on, as we said. So LC State went down to the NAIA Indoor Track and Field National Championship last week and had a fantastic time. Every single competitor that went to that event is coming back an All-American, which is just fantastic. You had the 4x800 female relay team, which is Emily Adams, Riley Brown, Maja Plasnik, and Geraldine Correa finishing 4th with a time of 9 minutes and 27 seconds. Ashley Britt finished 8th in the 600, and then later that day finished 8th with her team at the 4x400 female relay team with Carly Smith, Rebecca Kalmbach, and Annika Grogan, and Maddie Carson finishing 7th in the pole vault. On the guys' side, Clayton Van Dyke led a good portion of his 1,000-meter race before dropping back a little bit. The third did come back and finish 2nd. And Cole Olson finishes 8th in the 5,000-meter with a time of 14 minutes and 54 seconds. Coach said that he had got off to a rough start, kind of got pushed back into the pack, had just caught up to the lead pack when they were finishing the race. So Cole, who's had a fantastic season, Clayton too, just finishing a little short there. But it's so impressive to see every single person that went to that event ended up being an All-American. So congratulations to the Warriors there. Also, congratulations to the women's volleyball team who have now went 5-3 on the season after they do win 3 of 4 this weekend. They lose their first match to Oregon Tech 0-3, but then come back and win the second match 3-2. And from the scores, it looks like that game was insane. And then they do sweep Multnomah on Saturday with a pair of 3-0 victories. And they will take on Corbin March 19th and the 20th. So they are also off this weekend. Men's tennis, again, when we talk to Kai, he is no stranger of putting his teams in tough situations. They played Boise State on Saturday. They lose that one 0-7 and then lose to Seattle U, but do get 2 singles wins. I tried to look that up, but the page was broken on lcwarriors.com, so I apologize there. And now they're going to head to New Orleans and take on the number 10 team Xavier and the number 12 team Mobile, and then take on Loyola as well. So they're going to have 3 different matchups next weekend. The women's tennis team is also going to make that trip. They haven't played in about a month. And they're going to take on those same 3 teams, but all 3 of those teams on the women's side are ranked. Xavier is ranked 3rd, Mobile is ranked 18th, and Loyola is ranked 21st. So both the men and women's teams, who are both very young, get to travel across the country to take on 3 of the best teams in the NAIA right now. And that's exactly how Kai would want it.
Oh yeah. He likes to get exposure. He gets a lot of international talent.
Yep.
And you can't do that without playing the top teams in the nation. And so he loves to schedule teams like that so he can get exposure and show what real tennis is all about. And so I think it's great that he's doing that.
Yeah, and like he said last week, he doesn't say no.
No.
If anybody that wants to play him, bring it on.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's going to be the only thing bad about that is them traveling so far down to New Orleans, almost 2,000 miles to travel, go through all the protocol. But to get the chance to play against Xavier and Mobile and Loyola, that's just it's just a great opportunity. It just gets LC more exposure, and that's one thing that even we talked about last week. I mean, you think of LCSC, that name, Kai Fong comes up, and Chef comes up. I mean, huge names come up, and when you can throw LCSC out there in front of, major teams like, Xavier, it's huge. It's a huge opportunity for the notoriety for us. So I'm excited for that. But sir, you kind of put us out there in
I did. Again, Kai doesn't say no to any challenge.
No, he does not.
So I had put up a challenge as a joke, and he said, bring it. So we have made it a stretch goal for the show. Once we reach 500 likes on our R&R Sports Report page on Facebook, which we're at like 450 something right now, so we're not far. But once we reach 500 likes on our Facebook page, so go do that if you want to watch terrible tennis. Robert and I are going to play Kai in a 2-on-1 tennis match, and we will live stream it on our Facebook page. I think we could win a game.
Denise even offered she'd come in and stream it for us. She'd come in with the video camera. I'm like, really? You really want to film?
Of course she will. And you'll never. She won't.
Kicked.
But the problem is if Denise streams it for us, they're not going to be able to hear us at all because it's going to be Denise laughing for the entire time.
That's the bad thing.
So we don't know what it's going to be, whether it's going to be one set or what we're going to do. I don't know if I could do a best of 3 at all anymore. I don't know if I have that in me. But once we hit 500 likes, we will get with Kai and we will set that up and we will make it happen. What am I doing?
It's gonna be ugly.
When's the last time you picked up a racket?
Well, we talked about that as Randy and I were walking out of here last Tuesday. We were talking about that. I was like, I haven't restrung my racket since my senior year in high school. I mean, I've played against the Fazzari brothers over and played racquetball. So, I mean, I have had a little bit of action over the last, but that was probably close to 5 years ago. I mean, it's been a while. And I think you figured the same thing.
It's been almost 20 years since I played competitively. I barely picked up a racket since. I know I've been out on the court a couple times. My brother-in-law got me. He came up from Utah and wanted to play, and then I couldn't even do topspin with keeping it on the court. I could slice it for days and find it, but it just felt uncomfortable. So we'll figure it out.
It'll be interesting.
And then I want to bring up golf because, again, golf is the last sport to get things going. And they just finished up their first tournament. It does look like the women finished second in theirs, and the men finished fourth. So Oregon Tech ends up winning both sides. The women finished 23 shots out, but finished like 40-some shots ahead of third. So they had a great showing. The men ended up, it was a lot closer there as they finished 3 shots out of second as Bushnell and Multnomah tied for second at 9:34. LCSC ends up with 9:37. Oregon Tech wins it with 9:13. So Oregon Tech definitely dominated the tournament, but a good showing for LC as they have not played in a long time. And they will now play next Monday and Tuesday here in Clarkson, Washington for the Warrior Spring Invitational. So just really quick, usually the LC Sports schedule is a long one, but it's a little calmer this week as volleyball has the week off. Track has the week off after their indoor championships. Baseball has the week off. So you have men's and women's tennis playing in New Orleans, and there are 3 matchups that we just talked about. You have the women's and men's basketball tournaments here at the Activity Center. Again, the women take on William Jessup at 5 p.m. on Friday. And if they're able to win that game, they will take on Carroll College 5 p.m. on Saturday. And the men will take on the winner of Vanguard and Benedictine Mesa at 7:30 on Saturday. And then again, golf on Monday and Tuesday. So a little smaller schedule than we've had the last couple weeks, but still a lot going on in the Valley. But now it's time for the main reason that we brought Brian on, and that is to talk some Washington high school football, as Brian was able to do the play-by-play for both the Asotin and the Clarkson games.
Yes, great weekend. I actually invited my dad to go with me Friday to Colfax, and we did the Asotin and Colfax game. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I thought Dad might enjoy it. He thought he was going to hate it, and he loved it. And so I'm glad I did it. It was something I'll never forget, and I think he really enjoyed it. And we were a little cold. The game wasn't very good, but it was something I'll remember forever.
Yeah, there we go. Well, let's start things off. We'll start with one other team before we get into Asotin, and we'll let you do the details for Asotin. We'll kick things off with Pomeroy. Pomeroy just looking monstrous as they end up rolling against Tico Oakdale 56-6. Pomeroy total offense 402 yards, 64 for Tico Rosalia. Well, I'm so used to saying Tico Oakdale, and that's changed again. So Colton Slaybaugh with 126 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns. Trent Gwynn with 117 yards rushing, only 91 yards passing, but 5 total touchdowns. Crazy. And they are in action tonight against Odessa. Ooh. So hopefully we'll have some data on them here. And then they'll wrap things up as they will host St. John Endicott on Saturday. So I'm hoping as soon as I'm done with the Clarkson High School cross country, I'm going to make a little trip over to Pomeroy and watch a little Pomeroy football. We'll see how that goes. Brian, let's talk a little bit about Asotin. We'll start that there first. And Asotin was on Friday night as they traveled up to Colfax. Wasn't much of a game.
No, Asotin was missing a few players due to injury from the previous week against Davenport, and it was a brutal start as Asotin won the toss, deferred, and actually Colfax won the toss. I'm sorry, deferred. Colfax kicked off. It was an onside kick. And they recovered it and went down and scored. And then they did the same thing again. Onside kick again, recovered again. So they jumped out to a quick 20-0 lead after one quarter, and it was all downhill from there for Asotin. Asotin's just struggled on the offensive end so far this year. Only 14 points in 2 games. I think they're struggling to find their identity on offense. They're not sure what's best for them, and as soon as they get a good play, they'll have a bad snap on offense, and then they'll be behind the chains again. And so it's just been a rough start so far for Asotin. They do get another chance this Friday. They'll be going to Chewelah this Friday at 7, but Chewelah won 59-0 against Kettle Falls last week. So another tough game, another tough opponent for Asotin this coming Friday. But we'll see. Their defense was really good against Davenport. They weren't too bad against Colfax, but Colfax has 2 really good running backs that are over 200 pounds, and they just pounded the line of scrimmage all night against Asotin. And so Asotin a little down this year, but they're still competitive.
Yeah, like you were saying, Colfax has got a big boy there, Jacob Brown, right. 167 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. And then we look at the Colfax quarterback lane, Gingerich. He had 101 yards passing. But Colfax, don't take anything away from Colfax. Colfax has played well over the last few years, holding Asotin to 29 yards total offense. That's just unheard of. Even if you're struggling, it's just hard to hold an offense that low. So looking forward to seeing where that team grows a little bit with Coach Jim Holman and what they're doing out there. So. Again, you say they are going to be traveling to Chewelah. You get a late night.
Yes,
dude.
I will.
Chewelah, as Brian, you can catch the game with Brian streaming on BigCountrySports.com or BigCountryNewsConnection.com Friday night at 7 p.m. So that one will be a great game. So you and I got a little excited. We got to watch, got to do our first home game in Clarkson, and Clarkson comes out and takes care of business on homecoming, ends up winning 27-6. Brian, your thoughts on Nick Schofield and Caden Galvin?
Great games for both of those guys. I mean, offensive player of the game, definitely Nick Schofield. 3 short touchdown runs and a touchdown pass to Cameron Hoveton. Caden Elvin, 3 interceptions, playing safety back there on defense for the Bantams. Came up huge. Clarkson gave up a long touchdown pass on the first series of the game, but then nothing after that. They were able to hold East Valley scoreless the final 3 quarters, and they ended up winning 27-6. Nick Schofield got a lot more playing time this game. He was kind of splitting reps with Terrell Lawson, but Lawson got injured early in the game, and so they brought in Nick, and they didn't miss a beat. I thought he looked really good behind center and made some good passes. But I was impressed with his legs. He's a pretty good sized boy, and he likes to run, and he's not afraid to lower his shoulder and go right after the defense. And that's what he did. Three short touchdowns.
He was that way in junior high. He just wanted to give him the ball, let him run, give him the ball right behind the line, and it was good, And so we didn't rotate in a lot like Coach Blythe's been doing with Terrell, but a huge play for the Bantams is they were able to Terrell had to catch up to a play. One of the last plays of the first half, they completed Conrath had completed a long pass, and the receiver, and I think it was
Milne.
Yeah, I think it was Milne that got out there. He had about a 10-yard lead on Lawson and was able to pull him down at the 15-yard line.
Metcalf
it was that. It looked that play, and he was able to. Lawson one of his last plays for the game is able to make the touchdown saving tackle, and they don't score, and they ended up getting the ball on turnovers on downs, as East Valley had no kicking game at all. So
right, yeah, I thought that was a big momentum shifter where Lawson could have hung his head, not catch up on the play, but he got beat on the play and was able to chase him down. And you're right, they turned the ball over on downs. After that, they were able to keep him out of the end zone. And I thought that was a huge turning point in the game.
Yeah, and even Bias told us he's all about this Lawson kid and his wheels. He can run. So, like we did say, he did hurt himself. Earlier note from him from Shannon Wilson a few minutes ago. He has a shoulder strain. He is going to be a game time decision. So, look for Nick to probably get the start, and we'll go from there. A couple other news. Eddie Berglund did not play again. Had some issues with his shoulder from the game prior against Shadle Park. And then one of my favorite students I've ever had, Misael Perez, and I call him Missile, ended up breaking his arm in 2 spots. He is done for his football season, out 6 weeks. Broke it in 2 spots, but good news, no surgery needed. And he will be back for basketball, as basketball will be starting in May. So that's good news for the Bantams there. So
right, yeah, they're just banged up right now, like losing their best receiver in Misael Perez, their most dynamic playmaker on offense as far as wide receivers, and losing your starting running back in Eddie. Hopefully he'll be back this week against Rogers. But as you mentioned, Schofield and Lawson a little bit banged up, but I think they're going to be good to go against Rogers, and then also missing an offensive lineman, I believe. But right now, it's the Bantams are just trying to get healthy.
Yeah, and the bad, we talk about Eddie being the main back there, but if you really look at the running backs, they're pretty deep. I mean, you've got they ended up having Tiger Carringer running the ball most of the time. Akaika Milan, who is a younger player. You also have Carter Steinwan that come in and played a little bit there. So some younger names getting some reps. So that's a good thing for the Bantams going ahead. And also Nick is up for athlete of the week for P1FCU. So hopefully he gets the nod. He's had a couple of big games. He's got like 5 touchdowns now. It's 5 or 6 now in just the 2 games, including the 1 touchdown pass to, like you said, 11 yards to Cameron Hovden, a friend of ours, a bowler friend of ours, is his kid out there. But on the defensive side, God, Caden Elden looked unbelievable along with those defensive linemen.
Right, yeah, I thought they played a whale of a game on defense. It was a good bounce back against East Valley after the loss to Shadle Park, and I thought they looked really good on the defensive side of the ball. And hopefully they do it again this Friday against Rogers.
Yeah, senior night on Friday at 7 p.m. We'll start there. They are allowing spectators, so each senior kids get 2, and then they just kind of throw it out. If people don't pick them up, they let some others in. The first 200 can come in and watch the game, and it's just exciting to see that happening at Adams Field.
Yeah, nice to see. We're getting some sports. It's really interesting to see how these teams have been able to work around the practice issues that they've had all winter long. You're talking about the Asotin game where they just couldn't get the offense going. I followed them on Facebook, and it seemed like every other day they were talking about practice getting canceled or having to split it up into different groups. It's got to be impossible to really get a game plan going when it's like, well, this student is part of our A group, so he can come to practice this day, but the guy that he's supposed to be working with is part of the B group, and they're not going to practice with each other. So it's nice to see Washington get some football games in, but it cannot be easy for any of these kids or coaches.
Right.
And I know they're struggling with it a little bit because they're even practicing with masks on. A few of the players are even taking it a step farther and wearing masks while they're playing. I know that's hurting some of them. It'll be interesting, especially, the girls soccer team. Right now, girls soccer is playing. All of them are playing with masks on. So going up there, and they end up winning here earlier tonight, 6-0 over Rogers for senior night for them. But
because of masks.
Yeah, but they struggled the other day. They are on the road to Othello here on Thursday, so they played tonight. So 2-1 on the season. I'm just excited we're getting some sporting action in at the high school level. I felt so sad for those kids that lost the spring athlete, all those spring athletes this last year, with baseball not happening and track, some of those people really was tough on their scholarships, tough on going into college and stuff like that. So
quick update on the Gonzaga game. The Bulldogs have outscored BYU 14-4 to start the second half. BYU still leading 57-55.
Well, as we talked, things are happening. It was kind of nice to see the Big Sky opening up here and doing some football games, but that came to a quick halt today as the U of I and Vandals canceled Saturday's game against Northern Arizona. So they did play this last week and lost. And we were we were following the game as we were announcing over there at Adams Field, but at one point, UC Davis was trailing 17-14, and then get into the fourth quarter, and it was all UC Davis. And that loss knocks Idaho out of the top 25. Now UC Davis makes their way up to 23rd. Idaho State defeats Southern Utah 26-24. And it gets, with 8 seconds left, Kevin Ryan hits a 30-yard field goal to win that one. Eastern Washington Eagles, they are able to just handily hold Northern Arizona 45-13. 15th straight win at the Inferno.
Worst field
I don't know, man.
ever.
I've been up to football camps up there and watching the 7-on-7 with some of these guys and the way they played. That place is crazy in the summertime to watch that place.
Eastern Washington is the reason no one else can do it. Like NCAA went, okay, that's enough. Like Boise State started it. A couple other schools did gray and these weird other colors. And Eastern Washington went red. And NCAA went, okay, you all can keep it because you spent money. No one else, everyone else, if you have turf, has to be green because it just got out of hand. Our buddy Paul Dazenbrock, when I was working at Lancers, would switch it off of like a big Ohio State Michigan game or Florida's taking on Alabama, and he would switch one of the TVs over to watch this terrible Eastern Washington field, which of course he's from Eastern Washington. Or he went to Eastern Washington, so of course he wants to root for his alma mater. But I hated seeing that field on TV. It was such an eyesore. I don't like that place, and I never will.
It's crazy to be there in the summertime during camps and stuff. And it like they say, that field is warm. If it's 100 degrees on the outside, there's been many practices I was out there, and we actually took the temperature on the field. It's 120 on the field, and it was melting the bottoms of their soles if you stayed too close. So it's crazy. But Eastern Washington now ranks 16th in the FCS poll, and they will take on Idaho State on Saturday.
All right, we got some Idaho State basketball results.
Yeah, we wrap up the Idaho State boys tournament. We'll hit every one of the divisions here just let you know where some of them fell. Prairie falls to Riverstone on Wednesday, and then they turn around and lose the next day. Just could not find themselves, and they lose to the Otters, who essentially ended up playing up against Lapway on Friday, and Lapway was able to run the tables there, beat Liberty Charter, ended up beating Grace, and then coming back and beating Riverstone 82-60. My question was the Kyrie Irving in effect, his whole video. I mean, I know Zach, and that was what I was going to ask Zach. I tried to get my buddy Zach Eastman, who is the coach of Lapway, to come on and join us today. He had some prior engagements, but with that whole video and what Kyrie was doing, do you think that had an effect on those boys?
I think it was really cool. I don't know if it has as much of an effect as people think. It's not like, oh, Kyrie Irving cheered us on, so now we're going to play harder. But I think if I'm a student athlete and I get a message from a pro athlete, you're going to feel really cool about it.
Yeah, it was cool to see that video, and it's been streamed a few times in a few different ways. So it was great. Lapway wins their 11th championship, so congratulations to the Wildcats. We turn our attention to the 1A Division II. Timberline ended up playing. They lose to Richfield, and then they ended up losing to North Gem. So they were out after the second game. The 2A level, St. Mary's, man, they just looked unbelievable. They run the table. But their semifinal game and their championship game was a little bit closer than what the first game was. They beat Melba 63-52, and then they end up beating North Fremont in the semifinals 45-43, and then win in the championship game, last shot against Ambrose 51-50. So congratulations to St. Mary's on taking home the 2A title.
Nice, go Lumberjacks.
Yeah. And then we follow a couple other teams in the 4A division just because Moscow's there. Lakeland is in that division. They end up losing to Bishop Kelly 56-44 on Thursday, and then end up losing again to Twin Falls on Friday, or beat Twin Falls on Friday and then lose to Jerome. So they don't get any hardware in that one. Then we look at the 5A, which is the same division as the Lewiston Bengals. Lake City makes it to the championship game, but loses to Meridian 68-54. And just like that, Idaho basketball is now complete for the 2020-2021 season.
All right, let's move on to some college basketball. As Gonzaga right now currently down by 4 in their game with BYU. They are still number 1 in the rankings. Baylor back up to number 2, Illinois 3, Michigan down to 4th, and Iowa sitting at 5th. Again, Gonzaga undefeated on the season, trying to finish it off with a WCC championship against BYU. I'll keep you updated as we go along. The Gonzaga women now up to number 16 in the rankings. Did hold on and beat BYU earlier on today, 43-42, as they only shoot 28.6%, and we're trailing 22-13 at halftime. Nice job to come back and bounce around. And I was trying to see who they played next, or is that the final one?
That's the final one. Okay. So right now they're projected in the number 5 seed in the Mercado region of the bracket to take on Rice. Rice is an automatic bid in. So right now that looks to be where they'll be set.
Then you have Washington State Cougars, who need to win the whole thing if they wanted to make the tournament. 14-12 on the year, 7-12 in conference. They'll take on Arizona State on Wednesday at 1 p.m. on the Pac-12 network, as that one is in Vegas. The women's side of Washington State, they do win their first round. They lose to number 11 Arizona, 60-44. No complaining there. We felt like they had to win the first one to make the tournament. They're still projected 10th right now in the Alamo region. We will see where that goes. It looks like it's gotten them just outside of the bubble, but you never know.
Right. Yeah.
How do you feel about your Cougars?
I feel very confident. It looked like Charlie Cream, the bracketologist for the women's bracket has them 10th seed, and no question that they're in there. They're not even in the last 4 in. They're ahead of that group, and so it looks like the other teams that were on the bubble are already into their conference tournaments, and so there's no team that's an at-large team that has to win their tournament that they're scared about sneaking into the tournament ahead of them, and so I think they are definitely in the tournament.
The sad part about where they're at, and this just is a shot in the dark with, we'll find out all the others on Sunday with Selection Sundays. They've got them in the same side of the bracket as Stanford right now.
Well,
and also
where's Stanford at?
Stanford right there, and that's an automatic. But that's in the same bracket side, and Gonzaga, the girls on the other side. So it'll be interesting after Sunday to see where everybody shuffles in.
Looking at that current bracket that Charlie Cream has right now, I'm just looking at one game ahead. If they could beat Northwestern in the first round, they have a possibility of facing Louisville, who has the girl from Kashmir on their team, Haley Van Lith. And so I would be really excited to see that matchup. A girl that they let slip away from the state of Washington goes all the way to Louisville. It's a girl that the Cougars would have definitely loved.
Well, that could actually get even more interesting. As I've been on Idaho girls, they get a chance. They might be able to knock off Idaho State, and Vandals could get that spot. That'd be a very interesting bottom part of the bracket to have Northwestern, Washington State, Louisville, and Idaho.
Well, that's if that all lines up.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ifs, but that'd be cool to see that happen.
Find out what is it. It's Selection Sunday for the men, Selection Monday. I think the women get it the next day. The Idaho Vandals have a chance to make the tournament on the men's side. They're 1-20 on the year. They're happy to get their first win. They will take on Montana tomorrow at 2 p.m. in the first round of the Big Sky tournament. Hey, they run the table. You're in. That's all that matters. They could be 5-20 and be one of those 16 seeds that have to play another 16 seed. They could technically have a good chance if they run this table to win a tournament game because they're playing another 16 seed. I'm just saying there's a chance. But the Idaho women played today and were able to get the win, Robert.
Yeah, Gandy leads the way again, 23 points, and they're able to handle Northern Arizona 67-53. So now that means they will play the winner of the game happening right now between Montana State and Sacramento State. They'll play that tomorrow at 8 o'clock. So it'll be interesting. I think they've got a good chance. You and I kind of talked, if they make it there, I don't think we'll see two teams come out of the Big Sky between Idaho State and Idaho, even though Idaho right now 15-6, 14-3 in conference play. Add that, make that 16-6 after the win tonight.
And Idaho State is 20-3.
Yeah,
it's just, you're not going to get it from the Big Sky.
Yeah, I don't think the extra one's coming. So, cross our fingers. We hope we get there and we get to see that happen here in the next couple of days. So. We will see where that takes us. And big shout out to one of our own, True Allen, as his team with Northwest Nazarene.
Who beat the Warriors.
Yeah. But that was an exhibition game.
Yes, it did not count.
Does not count. So exhibition game. They are getting ready to head back in the Division II games in Evansville area. They will be playing Point Loma on, I believe that's Saturday at 7:45 p.m. Pacific time. So good luck to True and his ball club there.
A couple score updates. We said that Idaho is waiting the winner of the Montana State-Sacramento State game. That is currently 6:45 to go in the second quarter. Montana State leads 19-16 in that one. Back on the men's side, BYU has extended their lead back out to 6. They lead Gonzaga 65-59. Make that 67-59 as they get a shot right there with 9:01 to go in that game. So Gonzaga's 25-0 record in jeopardy here in the WCC tournament.
How many times have they done that over the last few years? They end up losing one of them, and then they'll make a run.
Yep.
Always. It's an eye-opener.
You are listening to the R&R Sports Report right here on KLCZ 88.9 FM Lewiston. It's currently 41 degrees outside. can also follow us on the R&R Sports Report Facebook page and YouTube page. And again, if we get 500 likes on the Facebook page, we will play Kai Fong in a 2-on-1 tennis match. And I just checked, we are 43 likes away from that happening. Also, check out the KLCZ 88.9 FM Facebook page and give them a follow as well.
Here at KLCZ 88.9 FM, we're always looking for new student DJs to help keep the airways filled with new music, original talk radio, and news. If you ever wanted to have your own radio show and are studying here at LCSC like Randy, you can get on the air. Just stop by the office in the Student Union building, pick up a volunteer DJ application, or send an email to KLCZ station manager at lcmail.lcsc.edu to get started.
All right, let's move on to the NBA as they had their All-Star weekend. Steph Curry wins the three-point contest, Portland's, and Fernie Simmons wins the slam dunk contest over New York Knicks. He still can't even win that. And then Team LeBron defeats Team Durant 170 to 150. And what did I tell you guys when I was looking up the stats? There were 133 three-pointers put up in the game. I forget who I was listening to on Monday on the radio, but they were joking around talking about high school coaches and AAU coaches to be worried because their kids were going to come back after watching this All-Star game and start throwing it up from half court, just like they saw Damian Lillard and Steph Curry do it all throughout that game. I watched the highlights. Not much of a basketball game, but I have no problem with guys goofing around, having fun. I'm glad that they did it with the cool boards that they had in the Orlando bubble that they had last season. So they had some fun with it. My bigger thing is we have the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame 14 finalists that have been announced today. And I want you both to pick 3 out of these 14. I'll go through them real quick. You pick 3 that you think are going to go into it. So for coaches, we have 3 men, 2 women. We have Rick Adelman. We have Bill Russell as a coach. He was already obviously inducted in 1975 as a player. And Jay Wright. And on the women's side, you have Letta Andrews and Marianne Stanley. Players-wise, on the men's side, you have Chris Bosh, Michael Cooper, Tim Hardaway, Marquise Johnson, Paul Pierce, Ben Wallace, and Chris Webber. On the women's side, you have Yolanda Griffith and Lauren Jackson. Pick 3 that you think are going to make it into the Hall of Fame. I'll start with Brian.
I'm going to have to go with Michael Cooper. And I would say on the women's side, Lauren Jackson. And I would take Bill Russell as a coach as well.
Okay.
So those are my 3.
Robert?
I was going to go with Michael Cooper, but I think I'm going to go with...
you can pick the same. I wasn't saying we're not doing a draft.
I think Michael Cooper, Tim Hardaway go in. And as much as I would love to see Bill Russell go in as a coach, I don't think he will. I think it'll be Lauren Jackson. So those are my 3.
Yeah, Lauren Jackson, I think, is a good pick. How about Rick Adelman? He was a fantastic coach. Was it Portland for so long? Phoenix, I think, at some point. So I'll take him. Yeah, you always have to remember with basketball, it counts college as well. So I'm tempted to say Chris Webber because he was part of the Fab Five, and that was such an iconic moment in the 90s. But he didn't have that much of a pro career. It was a long career, but he was nothing outstanding. When I was into basketball, Ben Wallace was always that player I loved to watch with Detroit.
Yes.
Blocking everything around him.
20 rebounds a game.
Right. I don't think he quite makes Hall of Fame stuff. Paul Pierce is at that same level. So it's really tough. So I'll say Rick Adelman. I'll say Lauren Jackson. And give me Chris Webber because, again, it counts all of college as well. And, of course, the 2020 class, which was the dominant class, Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, Kevin Durant, will be inducted now May 13th through the 15th because everything last year got canceled. And that brings up the topic we wanted to talk about last week. And we were just running out of time. So we're going to put it on here because we're running out of time. But I want to get Brian's thoughts on this. So there's been opinions and ideas of changing the NBA logo from Jerry West to Kobe Bryant. Do you think that they should?
As much as Kobe Bryant was one of the most favorite players of mine to watch, I still think I would keep Jerry West. I like the logo as it is now. I don't think Kobe was the best player ever. I think it's Michael Jordan, so I'm not sure why it would go to Kobe. I understand why, but I still think I like the logo as it is. I wouldn't change it. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I'm kind of the purist. But I can understand why they would want to switch it. Because the popularity of where basketball has headed over the last few years, and with him and LeBron James being the face. But then you start questioning. How come they didn't think about doing this with Michael? How come they didn't do this with the other? I love the look of how Jerry West looked in the picture. And if you look at the picture from where the logo came from, I mean, that was pure, to me, almost hustle. He was making the play, going. I just don't see that happening, just because also, what would you do with all the royalties? That there's going to be a money issue. That. So then you get into the legal actions between Kobe's wife and this, and then you got to even probably think about putting in the Lakers stuff, because Kobe was all Lakers stuff. So then,
well, you're not going to put a logo of the NBA
no,
and have him with a Laker jersey.
No, but you think that they would probably want to have their hands in a little bit of it too, because you never know.
It'll be a silhouette of somebody if they change it again, and with a player. I mean, it never happened with West when they had him as logo. I'm with Brian, though. I don't think it should be Kobe. I know a lot of people want to, because of the way he died and how tragic that was. But he's not one of the top guys of all time. He would maybe be close for a lot of people in their top 10. I know people that grew up watching Kobe will have him in their top 5. But when you really think about it, I don't think I would even have him in my top 10. If you do change the logo, I'm with you. It'd have to be Michael Jordan, but then it gets confusing with the Nike logo also being Jordan.
Right.
I was thinking about this for the last 2 weeks of if they were going to change the logo. Obviously, you would want to change the logo to something that represents basketball. So obviously Jerry West, that was back when, they were doing a lot of movement, and Jerry West just kind of fit that design. If we had the logo in the 90s, it would be Michael Jordan doing a slam dunk. If they were to change the logo, which I don't think they should, it should be of Steph Curry, because he has changed the game and now everyone is shooting threes. So it should be of Steph Curry or somebody else, or Reggie Miller even, of putting up a three-pointer. If you're going to change the logo, because that's what it's always going to be, is a silhouette of a player. So it should be of somebody shooting the basketball instead of making a move, because that's all we see now is people jacking up threes. That's my thought.
I can see your point. You're exactly right. I mean, then you get into the point of, what about adding a 3-person silhouette?
Now, don't get complicated.
Well, no. I'm just like, do you take and mix some of them in? But then you get into the argument all the time of greatest of all time, like like Brian said, and I agree. Michael Jordan for me is going to be that player, 100%. Don't take anything away from LeBron. LeBron's still good, but I mean, I can see you talking about shooting the 3-pointer. I mean, it's there. But then it goes to, for me, no defense. And that's why I quit playing. That's why I quit watching. I hate watching it, because it's gotten to the point where there's absolutely no defense played, and that's why the scores are so out of mind, blown away out of mind.
Yeah, but I'm with Brian. I think the logo is good enough. That's it. I'll see it change, but if they change it, I'm not going to go crazy. Quick update again. Gonzaga has taken the lead over BYU, leading 71-68, just under 6 minutes to go in the second half. Again, I'll keep you updated through the last 17 minutes of the show. But now it is time to talk about those sports that just do not get enough airtime. These are the sports that we really love. Let's start with golf, where Bryson DeChambeau ends up winning by 1 stroke over Lee Westwood. He shoots 11 under par in the Arnold Palmer Classic, makes $1.6 million for a weekend of golf.
The biggest one, he lost to Westwood by 1 stroke, or one against Westwood to 1 stroke. That 1 stroke cost over $600,000 for Lee.
That's
just crazy.
There's a hole at Bay Hill. I forget which one it is. I was watching this tournament off and on throughout the weekend, but it has, and I remember playing this on one of those old Tiger Woods games, so that's why I was remembering it. But there's a hole out there that goes around a lake, and it's supposed to be a par 5, I think, but because you're supposed to shoot it around the lake. But if you have a big enough drive like DeChambeau, you can hit it over the lake. And I watched him on Saturday hit one. He was maybe 50 yards from the hole. He just hit it to the right. And just the play-by-play did it so beautifully. They were saying this looks like a long-distance drive competition because he just wound up, hit it as hard as possible, and then like pumped his fist, and the crowd just went nuts the moment he hit it, and it goes completely over this lake. And I believe he did it on Sunday too. I saw somebody tweet out that was like somebody's going to make fun of him because he hit it to the bunker. They're like, that's fine. If your second shot's in the bunker next to the green on a par 5, oh darn. But that guy just is. Talk about somebody trying to change the way people play golf. Yeah, that's Bryson DeChambeau.
Yeah, and the big thing, I mean, his thing hit some big putts. He hit a 37-footer putt and a 36-foot putt. So hats off to him. Getting the text from Tiger, giving him encouragement. But that's his 8th win. I mean, where does he go now over the next few years? I mean, he's the big driver. I mean, he's got to hit the big one.
He's his training regimen has kind of changed the way he's been playing. He's added 25 pounds of muscle, I think, and it's paid off.
Yeah,
so far.
Joel Damon does not make the cut this week. Shoots 6 over par, and then played some randoms in another golf course. I saw Gino tweeting out that they were looking for opponents, and then he tweeted out, I believe it was Sunday morning, going, it's not good when Joel Damon goes out of his way to find competition to play for money on Sunday, and then wakes up Sunday after drinking a bunch of alcohol going, Gino, I need you to carry me today. I don't know. I didn't see how that ended up for those two, but not the way they wanted that weekend to go. It is the Players' Championship at TPC Sawgrass, another fantastic golf course. That'll be fun to watch. PBA, the pros had the week off because you had the PBA Junior National Championship. I was able to watch the girls match, and then I had to get down to the ball field, so I didn't get to watch the boys or the doubles. But Jillian Martin defeats Victoria Verano 257-246. Jillian having to get the first 2 in the 10th to win that matchup after Victoria stones an 8-10, which is always the most brutal thing. And of course, Randy Peterson doing color on that show, and they make fun of him every time. And I have to go watch that clip of him stoning the 8-pin, and the guy basically rubbing it in his face as he runs around, going, I don't believe it. It's a great bowling moment. But congratulations to Jillian. I was more impressed with just, again, these girls are like 14, 15 years old.
Both of them are 16.
And I think Jillian has more rev rate than I do. Like, I don't have a lot of rev rate anyways, but I mean, she has so much of it and was able to work those lanes and under the lights and just to be able to put up a 257 score. Just fantastic.
Takes me 2 games to get 250.
Well, and here's the bigger part of it. She's already bowled on the PWBA. She has more points than anybody on the tour right now because she's been to a couple of the tournaments. She placed second in one and like third in another. She has more points than anybody, but she can't qualify because she doesn't hold a pro card. That's the only reason she's not leading the PWBA.
Soon. So Robert, you got to see the boys. How'd that go?
Yeah, both of them two-handed bowlers. Spencer Robarge defeated Nate Purchase. Both of the boys missed clutch spares and had a couple of opens.
Spares are important, kids.
Yep. Yeah, Spencer ends up winning that one, 227-214. I think the biggest thing, they each get $7,500 in their scholarship fund, which is a great program called the SMART program through bowling. So, it's
by
really
the way,
cool.
If anyone's listening and they have kids, or people that have kids, and you're worried about being able to pay for college, bowling is the way to go. They give out scholarship money all the time. I bowl a summer league with my son, and I've yet to have him carry me to a championship. We've been close, but in that league with us bowling, they can earn scholarship money just for bowling with their parents and for high average and finishing first. You can get stuff. There's tournaments all the time. The post grandkids are winning money left and right. I see them posting about it all the time. Great scholarship opportunities for bowling, and it's really fantastic. It's stuff you don't see elsewhere. Like, you have to go win a scholarship from a school. Like, they have to say, we want you to play. With bowling, you can build it up from a very, very young age.
Right, and some schools need to fill their scholarship numbers for Title IX, and so I mean, you'd be surprised how many schools are looking for players like women's golf, bowling.
It's just crazy. The other part that was cool about that they did have a few pros that they ended up pairing up these kids with, and they got to go and bowl a doubles tournament. So after Jillian and Victoria were all done, they got to pair up. Jillian paired up with Clara Guerrero, and then Victoria got to one of the specialists. One of the best things you could ever do is pair up with your sister and bowl. As sister is Danielle McEwen, who's one of the top female bowlers, and it was great. But they did a 5-frame match, kind of shortened it up. They do get beat pretty bad by Jillian. It was all about Jillian. I think she missed the pocket a couple times the entire day, but was able to beat them 148-87. And then in the boys' side, Kyle Troop, along with Nate Purchase, ended up defeating Yes for Spence and Spencer Robarge 98-96. It came down to the last frame in that one too. And then they paired up against each other, and Troop and them ended up bowling a full game, and they just picked it out. And they had,
I saw the pictures.
They had 7 in a row and got up in the 8th frame. I think it was the 8th frame, yeah. And Purchase throws just a solid 10-pin, and so ends the perfect game for him. But it was still awesome to see it. 268-197. So it was a great tournament. If you've got a chance to rewatch it, it is an unbelievable opportunity in this inaugural junior national championship.
It was really, really cool to see. And right now they are doing all the qualifying for the World Series of Bowling. So there's all sorts of events there. They bowl on 3 different bowling patterns, and 2 of them are really high scoring. 1 just kicks their butts, and it's really fun to see them kind of work through all of that. Go to NASCAR, where Kyle Larson wins in Las Vegas. It's his first win since he lost his ride last year after he kind of used a racial slur in an iRacing event. I've always been that person that says, okay, he made his mistake. He's paid for it. Now let him go do his job and earn his way back. And that is what happened with Kyle Larson. I don't think he should have been banned forever for making a mistake, but he should have been punished. So I'm glad to see him out there. Had a fantastic race. Brad Koslowski finishes 2nd. Kyle Busch finishes 3rd. Denny Hamlin 4th. And Ryan Blaney finishes 5th. They go to Phoenix next week, which is also the site of the championship race at the end of the season, as we're getting closer and closer to racing at Bristol on dirt.
Yeah,
I'm so excited for that catastrophe. I can't picture it in my mind. And the 40-degree banking on dirt in giant stock cars. It's going to be great.
It's going to be great, but I think I really want to take a trip this summer and go up to some of the locals. I want to watch some of the guys up there in Post Falls go around and hit some of those dirt tracks. I'm excited to see Bristol. So,
all right, before we get into a shorter version of This Week in Sports History, because we got about 8 minutes left, another update here as Gonzaga is starting to pull away from BYU. They now lead 82-73 with 1:30 to go in the second half. They've outscored the Cougars 41-20 in the second half. So it's starting to look like Gonzaga will, in fact, finish the regular season 26-0 and go into the tournament looking for the first undefeated record since Indiana did it at some point. 77. That's my guess. I forget what year it was. All right, go ahead.
All right.
This week in sports history, just do a couple.
We'll do a couple here. This is for the week of March 3rd through the 9th, and we'll kick things off. San Francisco Giants in 1959 renamed their stadium Candlestick Park. What is
76.
that about?
It was 76. I said 77.
Close.
I was that close.
It was close. 1985, Bill Shoemaker becomes the first jockey to win $100 million. In 1968, Joe Frazier takes his record of 20-0 and captures a vacant world title boxing match, and he stops Buster Mathis in the 11th round with a TKO at Madison Square Garden. 1995, George Foreman loses. I was trying to talk the Lewiston basketball guy in there. He's going to box now. Don't tell Corey. George Foreman loses the boxing title, WBA title, because he refuses to fight Tony Tucker. Let's see. 1857, baseball decides that 9 innings constitutes an official game, not 9 runs.
Could you imagine that being baseball? You were playing until somebody scores 9 runs. With some of the pitchers out there right now, some games could still be going on.
Well, you look at the year, 1857. I mean, that's just before the Civil War. I mean, they're out there playing. You know, they only got nine runs. First one to score. Here we go.
Yeah, now it's 5 innings, so constitutes an official game because we don't have time for that.
Yeah. 2016, Peyton Manning announces his retirement from the Denver Broncos in the NFL. 1936, the first stock car race is held in Daytona Beach.
Which it's good as we're talking about Bristol on dirt. The first NASCAR race, mostly on sand.
There you go. 1971, Joe Frazier ends Muhammad Ali's 31-fight win streak at Madison Square Garden, retaining the heavyweight boxing title by an unanimous points decision over 15 rounds, and that was coined the fight of the century. Let's go. Two more here. 1984, the Philadelphia 76ers block 20 Seattle shots, tying an NBA regulation record at that time. That record is now 6th all time. And in 1995, baseball awards a franchise to the Tampa Bay Devil Rays.
And the Devil was a bad thing, and now they're the Rays.
Yeah, now they're just the Rays. So,
but nobody got all mad about changing that nickname.
no.
Let's do it with Washington.
Yeah, no kidding.
Don't get me started. I'm starting myself. All right.
Yeah, you're starting
time.
because we haven't even got to Cleveland and their team situation next year.
It's time to stump me.
All right.
Did I make it last week? I forget.
I don't remember last week.
I'll say I was successful.
We had so much stuff to talk about last week. It was just crazy, and so we were trying to.
The last 2 weeks have been a complete blur. I don't even know what is happening.
So it's crazy.
Let's see. Let's see if you can stump me. I got Brian here to help me this week.
All right. So I'm gonna give you the option. I want to do both of them.
I want the easy one first.
Okay, I'll give you the easy one first.
You said you had an easy one and a hard one. So let's do the easy one first. This is the official one.
Baseball awards a franchise to the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yep.
I'll correct myself. Who was their first manager?
Oh no, it was Lou Piniella.
Incorrect.
He was our second one then.
Incorrect. He was the third.
He was the third. Who was the first? I really thought it was Lou, but I guess that would make sense because '95 he was still with Seattle.
So I'll throw this out there. Do you remember which ball club came in at the same time with the
Colorado
Rays?
Rockies.
Wrong. Man, I stumped.
Really?
Yes.
Or was it Florida? Was it Florida then?
Wrong. Man, I am just winning this one all over.
Who went with Tampa Bay?
Arizona.
Florida and Colorado came together. Okay.
Right. So it was Larry Rothschild. He coached 1998 to 2001. He only
I don't know why I think all 4 of those teams came at the same time.
Was
it 97?
95 is when it happened. The first year was 1998. So they awarded it in 95.
Oh, that's where I've got mixed up. So about this time is when Florida and Colorado had started, because Florida was second or third year in when they won the World Series in '97. That's right. Okay.
Sure.
So it was just awarded. Now they didn't play until later. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And
I'm on the same page.
Yeah, and he only managed 499 games. But the biggest one, and I said his name a few minutes ago at the very top, 1985. Bill Shoemaker becomes the first jockey to win $100 million. How many wins did he have? And I'll let you do an estimate because it's tough because a lot of these guys race a ton of times.
Yeah.
227 times.
I think it's 1,100.
You guys are so off.
I have no idea.
You guys are so off. Billy Shoemaker, one of the best jockeys to ever ride a horse, ended up winning 8,833 times. I win this week. We're just going to write this down. I win this week.
100% win this week, as do the Gonzaga Bulldogs. They do defeat BYU and win the WCC. They win this one 88-78. So congratulations to the Bulldogs, 26-0. One last update on who might face Idaho. Montana State up 30-26 over Sacramento State at halftime. Sacramento State is only 3-21 on the year, so they're trying to pull the Idaho Vandals on the men's side and just go nuts and have the craziest record to make the tournament. I just want to thank you, Brian, for coming to hang out with us for 2 hours and listening to us spout nonsense.
Had a blast. Love listening to you guys.
And we will be back next week as we will be able to talk NAIA results with the opening rounds. We'll be able to look at the NCAA brackets. Both the men and women will have come out. We'll see what's going on with Drew Allen as he has his as well. We'll be basically into free agency at that point. It starts next Tuesday, but I'm sure rumors will happen far before it. So once again, we have a 2-hour show where we're going to try to jam-pack 5 hours of content and try not to lose our mind.
And we'll talk a little bit more high school sports as Bantams will be hosting the first cross-country meet and soccer and more football. So excited.
And basketball finally is done and everything else starts.
Yeah.
And gets going. Again, Clarkson and Stoughton both have football games this weekend. It's just busy. And, of course, we will talk AL and NL Central because we have nothing else to talk about. Everything. And we'll get some NBA in there as well. So I want to thank everybody that's been hanging out. Make sure if you have friends that have not followed us, we're 43 away from watching Robert and I play tennis against Kai Fong. So go make that happen. It will be a fun time for sure. But that's Robert. That's Brian. I'm Randy. And for now, we are out.